is brought to you by my supporters on Patreon. Minasan. Arigatou gozaimasu. It was a really good day today. Another phenomenal day of work. Let me throw this all the way over the top. Just got so much done today. So productive. Partially augmented. I mean, how do I say it? It's like super powered now with AI. Using it with literally everything. We did scope writing today, and I used the AI to help improve the prose writing that I did for the scope. After meetings, I had to send out summary statuses. I'm not status reports, meeting minutes and notes about the meeting, and those were. Oh, that's already changed. Look at that. That wasn't here yesterday. Huh? Folgers coffee. Victoria beer. That wasn't here yesterday. This was all here. I don't remember the pumpkins though. Halloween was yesterday, so this is all. Oh, look at that. Huh. Memorial photos or something. It's changed. Changed from Halloween to Thanksgiving. Oh, there's that guy. But the thing that changed most of all was I had to send out the minutes. So instead of typing them up in the email, I simply turned on the AI and told it, just a verbose summary. For example, like this. I would say, I've got in the AI and ChatGPT, I have a chat session set up for a particular project, the HS project. And so after the meeting where we were talking about data transfer methodologies and best practices and limits, I wanted to send out a status report. I could say, just turn on AI within that chat platform so it already knows the context of the project that I'm talking about. I don't have to give it that information. I simply tell it, all right, I just had okay, let's send out a status report. I say, okay, ChatGPT, let's send out a status report. No, okay, ChatGPT, let's send out a meeting minutes. I just met with Ren and Victor, and we discussed data transfer best practices and limits. And the recommendations we got were to use 2 bullet points mainly: secure FTP using public keys if possible, and that with regard to the file transfer, if we can get all of the data in the file name, or actually the text string, the string file name, file string for it, that would be fine. But we have a limit of 250 characters. That's not just for the file name, but for the entire string, including all the the forward slashes. Furthermore, the recommended delineator would be commas. So let's try and work forward to abide these limits and best practices, and let me know if you have any questions. Bam. Now, I'm just speaking free and open to the AI. It then goes off, generates the email, and pops it up. And I would say that just about every time I do that, it comes out 95% spot on. Small little adjustments and incidental little adjustments usually, especially in the context of a project that is well defined. So as a result, I'm going to meetings, and where I would normally spend for a half hour, 1 hour meeting, where I would normally spend 15 minutes to 20 minutes composing the meeting minutes and proofing them and double checking them and then sending them out, I can generate the response within 2 minutes of the meeting's conclusion, and then have that in the email and on its way in another minute and a half. So 3.5 minutes, and I'm on to whatever it is, the next thing I need to be working on. That's my day now. That's how I do everything. It's interesting to see how people respond. Some people really don't like it because I'll share my screen. Like in one meeting today, we were writing, I had the screen split screen. I had the scoping document, Microsoft Word document, where we were writing up the scope, and the team was describing what they wanted. This was reports. We wanted to define the reports, and I was having them tell me the name of the report, what you expect out of that report, what fields you expect to see, etc. And I'm literally just typing up what I hear them saying. My brain is transcribing it into written form, putting in bullet points. And I would take that, copy it, paste it into ChatGPT in the session for the project, which it knows the context then, and I already front loaded it to say, if I drop something in, I want you to improve it. And it would do it. Yesterday I had meetings with one group. They loved it, and the results came out really good. Let me find a good place to get in the water. The second today, it's interesting how some people don't like, oh, look at that guy way out there. See him gliding along? That's motorized. They don't like or appreciate the AI, and they don't want to have anything to do with that. And they just tell me they don't like it, which is just fine. So in that case, I learned my lesson. Some people aren't ready for the augmented technology. They'd rather have the human do it. One person yesterday did in fact tell me that point blank. He said, because he was stunned at what he was seeing, he said, this technology can write it better than I can. He's a subject matter expert. And I said, yeah, it can. It has the context of everybody that's ever had your job, that's ever published anything on the internet. He had a look of worry and concern on his face. He wasn't very pleased or impressed, because I think he sees his job at risk, which it is. Anybody that doesn't adopt or adapt to this technology may find themselves replaced by this technology or deprecated. First. What's worse than being replaced? By discovering you're no longer needed. All right. Time to get in the water. The gaggle of girls over there at the high school, young runners, and they're 4 girls. I see them here pretty regularly. They come down from the high school. They're a part of the running team. They jump in the ocean together in all their running gear. Imagine they're going to remember that for the rest of their life. Okay, let's get some exercise. almost everything that Macaulay said about Boswell was true, but he presented a one-sided picture. Nobody would have recognized from Macaulay's description. Wait, I read that part. Oh, way past that. Yeah, there you go. Back to this other page. Of course, this contrast was to some extent misleading. Boswell had not written his journals for publication, while the Johnson known to the public was the one presented by his biographer. Boswell's plain, direct prose was easy to read and appealed to 20th century readers as Johnson's mannered, classical style never could. Moreover, Boswell's interest in himself, which seemed so peculiar to his contemporaries, was very much more acceptable 2 centuries later. Indeed, Boswell seemed to offer a unique combination. A writer who poured the contents of his mind freely into his journal without either embarrassment or knowingness. At the beginning of the 20th century, Freud had instigated a new era in autobiography, preaching the value of introspection and self-analysis, while showing what might lie below the surface of conscious thought. The knowledge was also a loss of innocence. After Freud, writing about oneself could never again be the same. Here was a miracle, a pre-Freudian autobiographer who revealed everything in his mind without restraint, concealment, or distortion, or so it seemed. Half a century later, Isham and Pottle are gone, but new volumes in the Yale edition of the Boswell papers continue to appear at intervals. So much fresh material has proved a feast for academics. A Boswell industry has come into being, producing studies of Boswell's letters, journals, and manuscripts. In particular, Boswell scholars have dissected his technique, showing how carefully he wrote. There is an increasing emphasis on Boswell as a writer of skill and even genius. The old notion of Boswell as a mere recorder of Johnson's remarks has been obliterated. And in their analysis of Boswell's craft, Boswellians have shown how meticulously he worked his portrait. Now revealed for the first time is the extent to which Boswell manipulated his sources to achieve the effects he wanted. As the respect for Boswell's literary abilities grows, so the authenticity of his creation is increasingly called into question. Boswell's scholarship now threatens to swamp Johnson's. Some 25 years after Yale acquired the Boswell papers, the Johnsonian specialist Donald Green complained in the Times Literary Supplement that an avalanche of Boswell minutiae continued to tumble from the presses, while a scholarly edition of Johnson's works was blocked by lack of funds. Boswell's reputation, Green suggested, had become preposterously inflated. Elsewhere, Green has argued that Boswell's Life of Johnson is really an autobiography. He proposed that it should be called the Memoirs of James Boswell, concerning his acquaintance with Samuel Johnson. Green has even asserted that the book is a disguised attack on Johnson, an attempt to cut him down to size and to establish Boswell's superiority over him. Of all the Johnsonian scholars, Green is the most hostile to Boswell. He condemns Boswell for making Johnson appear stupidly pompous by always affixing the title Doctor to his name. In fact, it is easy to show that by the time Johnson died, most of his intimate friends, Reynolds, Langton, and Burke, for example, referred to him as Dr. Johnson. But Green is by no means alone among Johnson scholars in reacting strongly to the new emphasis on Boswell. Drawing partly on the Boswell papers themselves, a new wave of Johnsonian studies has attempted to differentiate the real Johnson from the figure evoked so powerfully in Boswell's book, and to reassert Johnson's status as a great writer, not just a great talker. Thus, the tendency of the rival camps has been the same: praise Boswell and Johnson apart. Writing only a few years after Boswell's death, William Wordsworth hailed the life of Johnson as a new kind of biography, one which broke taboos that needed breaking. What the young poet relished about the book was its emphasis on character. Boswell's portrait of Johnson was extraordinarily vivid. Like the Flemish painters, he displayed his model distinct and in every pore. And providing so much intimate detail about Johnson, Boswell tore down the wall between public and private, revealing his subject as no previous biography had done. Through Boswell, Johnson became one of the most recognizable characters in literature, and has continued as such long after his own writings have sunk into relative obscurity. Though Johnson himself had championed values rejected by the Romantics, his passionate intensity was a trait that they cherished. His long struggle, a saga which inspired them. I write, therefore I am alive. I write, therefore I am alive. The besotted, grief-stricken Johnson wrote to the dying, ill Boothby. Though a fool in so many ways, Boswell had the wit to recognize the greatness in this sad, lonely, shabby, quick-tempered, warm-hearted, difficult man. Mrs. Piazzi once remarked dismissively that Johnson's life consisted of little more than talking and writing. But Boswell conceived of Johnson's life as a drama of epic, almost rhythmic proportions. He depicted Johnson as a hero who defied oblivion, who strove mightily to impose meaning on chaos, illuminating the darkness through the clarity of his intellect and the force of his mind. Boswell's Johnson was a solitary genius who grappled single-handedly with the universe, often neglected but proud, defiant, and independent. His biography showed how the life of a writer, no less than that of a soldier or a statesman, could encompass every variety of human experience: disappointment, triumph, courage, despair, anger, tenderness, laughter, and tragedy. The life of Johnson was soon acknowledged as a masterpiece. Boswell had extended the form into new territory, borrowing technique from the novel, the theater, and the confessional memoir. With meticulous care, with long practiced skill, and with a generous imagination, he crafted a character who lived and breathed. He also set new scholarly standards. His verification of every possible detail which seemed so eccentric to his contemporaries would become the norm. In doing what he did, he relied mainly on instinct, his sense of what would serve his purpose best. Boswell was influenced by other biographers, by Johnson in particular, but his book was quite different from any that had gone before, or indeed any that would be published after. For though the life of Johnson was a pioneering work which opened up new possibilities for biography, it was also unique. Never again will there be such a combination of subject, author, and opportunity. That's it. List of abbreviations used in the novel. Notes. Index. an introduction to Boswell's presumptuous task. When it appeared in 1791, James Boswell's The Life of Samuel Johnson was the most innovative and most intimate biography ever written. It revealed its subject more fully, more dramatically, and more completely than any previous biography, and arguably more than any biography since. Adam Sismon's Boswell's Presumptuous Task gives us an innovative and an intimate account of the making of that book, a biography of Boswell's biography of Johnson. It reveals Boswell's literary methods, his personal foibles, and the widely varied critical reception his masterpiece has received over the past 2 centuries. In doing so, Sisman engages questions of essential importance to the biographical enterprise. Can the biographer ever truly understand another human being? Can a biographer be fully accurate? How faithful should the biographer be to his or her source materials? How much of the biographer's own life inevitably intrudes into his or her work? In Boswell's own case, Sisman shows that far from being a sycophantic recorder of Johnson's brilliant conversations, Boswell exerted a high degree of literary skill in crafting, editing, and in some cases, altering his subject's remarks. Though he was scrupulous about checking his impressions against others who knew Johnson well, and tenacious about providing sources for all his material, a practice now standard but extraordinary at the time, Boswell was willing to sacrifice accuracy for aesthetic effect. The two men were friends for more than 20 years, yet there were sides to Johnson forever closed to Boswell. Sisman's book gives readers a clear and probing analysis of the ways in which Boswell knew Johnson, how that knowledge affected him, and how he shaped it into what is widely regarded as the greatest biography ever written. Boswell's Presumptuous Task gives us a vivid portrait of Boswell as a writer, his inner struggle, his inner turmoil, chaotic outer life, and heroic perseverance, struggling to do justice to this subject. That portrait reveals not only Boswell, the man and writer, but the very origins of modern biographical writing. For Boswell turned biography away from the kind of sloppy encomium that was the norm towards the more rigorous, exhaustive, and balanced approach that we now take for granted. He was tireless in gathering up every letter to and from Johnson, in verifying what Johnson said and did, and including as much material, both good and bad, as was humanly possible. Boswell professed to write not his panegyric, but his life, which, great and good as he was, must not be supposed to be entirely perfect. To reveal Johnson's true character, he sought to include shade as well as light, and to focus not only on the great events, but also on the minute details of daily life. These were groundbreaking innovations in Boswell's time and paved the way for modern biography as we know it. Sisman also shows the degree to which Boswell prefigures modern autobiography. In his journals and diaries, Boswell was an unflinching examiner of his own behavior and, more importantly, of his own mind. Sisman suggests that Boswell anticipates Freud in the depths of his introspection and self-analysis, revealing everything in his mind without restraint, concealment, or distortion. In many ways, our own age of self-searching memoir finds its origins in Boswell. But Boswell's Presumptuous Task is not only an exploration of the beginnings of modern biography and autobiography, it is also a book about one of the most unlikely and faithful friendships in modern literary history. Sisman's account shows us the inner workings of that friendship and elucidates the masterful work that resulted from it. A conversation with Adam Sisman. Save that one for tomorrow. It was a good book. Not a great book. Am I glad I read it? You bet. I have a more rich and full picture of both James Boswell and Samuel Johnson. I see also the this sounds cliche, but the very human side of this endeavor. You know, it's easy to think of Boswell as simply that a Scottish lord with lots of time on his hands, but really he was a troubled man. Pulling off the life of Johnson was quite a feat, in fact. No small thing. There's Angela's tent right there. I won't bother her today though. I'm sure she's studying for her accounting exam, as well as dealing with medical issues. Oh, is that a comment? I always miss all the comments. Sorry, I can't read them. I don't have my glasses. Oh, I know. These young men are here sometimes, and they do like routine. They have these little cones here, and they do some sort of a calisthenics thing with that female instructor there. See, they have these little things on the ground. There we go. See the woman on the corner there? She's not homeless. She's here probably 2 or 3 days out of every week. Just stands there in the corner. And sometimes she talks. I see her walking on the beach sometimes. She always dresses very nice. Hello. But I think there's definitely something up with her. Never quite be able to figure it out. She sometimes hangs out right there. She lives nearby, I think. Hey, it looks like they're taking down their Halloween stuff. These people over here in, was it 102B, Unit 102B, they're quite a Halloween decoration. Looks like he's taking it down now. Yeah, it's all coming down. So what made it a Wabi-Sabi day? Or where was the Wabi and the Sabi? Well, I think it was waking up with an expectation that I would have a pretty clean and straightforward day. It's always a challenge, one way or another. I think it's a challenge because I have an expectation. So if I could do to check things off the list, come what may, that would be a pretty Wabi-Sabi approach. It's not very Wabi-Sabi to expect anything other than that. Huh. See, told you, the connection's not very good. I think I saw a comment. It shows us I've never had a more affectionate or anyway, I'm gonna sign off for now. Let's still can't figure out how to. Oh, I'll just say goodbye. Take care.